Hey there, fans of the Survivor Super Fun Time show. I want to talk about one of the biggest, most debated topics, I think, in the history of Survivor. So many fans have an issue with this one specific twist that has been going on for a long time on Survivor. It's gone away. It's gone away. Fans eventually got their way. The angry mob won, and that is Redemption Island. Redemption Island began in Survivor 22. At one point or another, if you get voted out, you go to Redemption Island, where you have the option to go to the island, live there in exile, and then eventually every few days, you go and compete in a challenge against other people who have been voted out, with the opportunity to move forward and eventually get placed back into the game. In theory, it's a great idea. You know, you have the idea that some people maybe who were blindsided or voted out early, that really just one little move could have changed their game entirely to the point where maybe they would end up even winning the game. And this gives them the opportunity, if they compete hard enough, if they try hard enough, if they can outthink and outcompete their opponent in these battles, whether it be a physical thing like actual endurance, which is not usually the case. Usually it's like a puzzle, it's strategy, it's patience. All of those things that theoretically should level the playing field for anyone going to Redemption. The problem is, of course, for the people who didn't get voted out in the game, they have to worry about someone who was coming back in, and they have to factor that into their strategy. Basically, how much of a jerk can I be to someone when they're getting voted out before they want to come back and vote me out when they get back? And I understand that's where the conflict comes in. I mean, if we go all the way back to Survivor 7, Survivor Pearl Islands, when they had the Outcast twist, no one knew about that. Morgan and Drake had no idea that that was going to be happening. And when it finally did happen in the Outcast 1 and 2 of them were coming back, the vitriol, the absolute sludge that was thrown at those people, saying like, listen, anyone who's voted out of this game was voted out for a good reason, okay? And a lot of people didn't like it. You know, I think Redemption works to some degree in the same way. If we're looking purely through the scope of Redemption Island, yes, they didn't know what they were getting into when they did that. However, after that, it was a very interesting scenario where I definitely turned the corner, and that was Survivor South Pacific. It was amazing. In only about one season did survivors learn that they could use the Redemption Island strategy to their advantage, potentially. And not only for their own solo advantage, but from an actual tribal advantage. And there's no greater example than Ozzy. Ozzy Lust, the great legends of the porn industry, Ozzy Lust. He ended up getting himself voted out by his Savai'i tribe when he was not in danger. It would have been Cochran, who ended up betraying him later on in the season. Cochran would have been voted out, sent to Redemption, most likely would have gotten his butt kicked there. And instead, Ozzy decided to say, like, you know what, for the good of Savai'i, if I go in there and I take out one of the old Upolu, I can come back and Savai'i will have a legitimate chance to take on Upolu in the merge. Brilliant strategy. That's like Redemption Island at its finest, in my opinion. Ozzy was like, listen, I'm going to step up and I'm going to do this for the tribe. You can vote me out and I will use this and come back. Now, it's a huge gamble, huge risk, but it is a game mechanic that is really fascinating. And this is the biggest part that I have. It's a major departure from some of the stuff in the new era that I don't support so much, is it is completely up to Ozzy in that scenario. He goes to Redemption, and he has to win that challenge to get back in. It's not he stumbles on a beware advantage. It's not that he happens to find a note underneath his chair somewhere and he gets a hidden immunity. No, it's not like that. Instead, he goes in there and he does what he's got to do to get forward in the game. And I love that. That's what I do love about Redemption Island, because you can get redemption if you try. And the strategy gets even further complicated and awesome, in my opinion, using the Redemption Island strategy into the game when you get to Survivor 27, Blood versus Water. Now, it's twofold. First, we'll go on the level we were at with Ozzy. Tyson, the eventual winner of the season, he was using the same strategy as Ozzy to basically kind of play it a little fast and loose, because he knows if he goes to Redemption, there's a decent chance that he's probably going to be able to win his way back into the game. Now, Laura Moret was out there. Laura Moret is the queen of Redemption Island. She's won 6 challenges. 6, that's huge. She is only surpassed by Matt Elrod, who basically spent the entire game on Redemption Island, but he won 10 of 11 challenges. So, I mean, no matter what, he's a legend for that. Tyson was willing to make a few moves because he was like, listen, if it doesn't work out, I mean, that sucks. I have to explain to the jury if I get there why I was voted out in the first place. But I know that I have redemption in my back pocket. So I'm not that worried.
Because if you see me in Redemption Island, none of you have a chance in hell. Mr. Football over there smiling at me like he does.
So you like it because you can kind of play a little fast and loose and you can do some more dangerous things. However, it went to a whole different level with Blood versus Water. That's when the castaways figured out that if I vote out one of the strong player's loved ones, the opportunity for the strong player to swap out with the weaker one, it was always on the table. So then the strong player had to think to themselves, am I going to go into redemption and risk my game for my loved one? Brilliant. Like genuinely brilliant on the games makers, if we want to use Hunger Games terms, right? Brilliant using the Redemption Island strategy. I mean, same thing happened in Survivor Edge of Extinction and Winners at War. Edge of Extinction, we know Chris Underwood was voted out like episode 3. He spent 26 days, I think, on exile, which is ridiculous, and came back into the game and he won. It's no surprise, especially if you're a fan of the challenge. You see how good Chris is at challenges that he actually ended up there and winning. No surprise. However, right before him, Rick Devens came back into the game, and he was in for quite a while. Devens was voted out, I think, 4th, and Underwood was voted out 3rd. And Underwood didn't come back into the game until there was like 1 or 2 votes left. Not very much at all. Whereas Devens came back only a couple of votes later, and he spent the majority of the game honestly playing from the bottom. So that is where I think the real crux of Redemption Island is. I mean, if you want to count the Winners at War stuff or exile, yeah, I mean, Tyson got back in and then Natalie got back in. They used it to their advantage as well. I didn't like the use of fire tokens when it came to getting advantages in that challenge. I think that was too much. However, if we really want to look at Edge of Extinction, that's really where we can see how Redemption Island or the Edge of Extinction has completely gone off the rails. And this is where I support the angry mob when it comes to the Redemption Island concept. To this day, I genuinely try not to rank winners of Survivor. I don't really like it that much because I know everyone played their own game. They played a different game. They did what they needed to in order to win their own game. However, I've also been pretty consistent that I believe Chris Underwood has to be ranked as the bottom tier winner of all time. That's not a commentary on his social skills, his physical ability, nothing like that. It's just that I know he spent 2/3 of the game outside of the game where he could be voted out, sitting on the edge with essentially all of the jury. So the fact that he came in at the very end, okay, yeah, he did fire. Like, I'll give him that, I guess. And then he won the game. Like, that's where it goes off the rails. How can someone voted out 3rd come back, basically be guaranteed minimum 13th or 14th place because he just skipped over every one of those votes chilling on the Edge of Extinction, and then can come in and swoop up a win? That is where the Redemption Island Edge of Extinction concept completely falls apart. Rick Devens, I will not make that argument for Rick Devens. Rick Devens is in a different category. He missed a couple votes, only 2 or 3 votes, got back in right at the beginning of the merge, and he fought from the bottom the whole time. If Rick Devens had made the final 3, I pray to God he would have won that game, because he, in my opinion, would have legitimately earned it despite being voted out of the game earlier.
Do you believe you need to beat Devens in the fire making to have a chance to win?
Yeah.
What I think we can boil this down to is Redemption Island, I think is fine, or Edge of Extinction is fine. It cannot allow you to come back into the game so late. That is where producers absolutely flopped it with the Redemption Island concept. Like, to bring someone back right at the merge point, I think is the sweet spot. If anyone returns after the second one, I think it's no good. And that is why for Winners at War, I actually think Natalie Anderson, even though she was kind of close to winning the game, I think her returning to the game was super unfair. Like, if she had won, she would be in the category with Chris Underwood, in my opinion. It's no one's fault. It's the show's fault in that situation. And that's why I pray to God they never go back to a Redemption Island concept where they allow a player to come back at the end of the game.
First person voted out. She is now part of the final 6.
If we look at it from a singular season standpoint, yes, it makes it super interesting that you have to worry about someone coming in at the end, because there's so many outcomes that could have changed. I mean, for example, Blood versus Water, a season that we have already talked about before. I think Hayden had a very good shot of winning that game. God forbid he won at Redemption and was able to get back into the game. I think the winner Survivor Blood versus Water may have been Hayden, and he would have won Big Brother and Survivor back to back as a reality contestant, which is absolutely insane, by the way. That's one example of how I think it could have worked. But I think that tarnishes a season. There's a body of work that these players have put into that game. And by having someone return so late like that, that's a crime. It's a crime. It's also a terrific reminder that Survivor is not fair in any way. Maybe in season 1, it was kind of fair, although Stacey Stillman would probably argue that, her and her lawyers. Survivor, as far as the rules go, there was a period of time where they definitely just kind of made them up as they went along. And now you just have to hope in the new era that you are not going to get hit by the shrapnel of whatever advantage, idol, whatever coming your way. And I feel like that's very true of the new era. Maybe for the betterment of the game, they've done anything they can to not make it simple. If someone has an idol, they're going to make a mechanic so that you can't be comfortable with that idol. If you have an extra vote, they have to make a mechanic so that you can't be guaranteed to keep that extra vote. If you want to vote, you can't be guaranteed you even get a vote anymore. And if you want to vote someone out and they have nothing, you can't be guaranteed they're not going to play a shot in the dark. Like, there's always something going on. And I have to give a lot of credit to people who can play dominantly in the new era, because there's a lot you have to look out for. However, it's also a lot of nonsense. So I don't know if they're always the best purest games, but I can surely say that Redemption Island or Edge of Extinction, it's certainly on par with anything in the new era. So if anyone still has ill feelings toward Redemption Island, honestly, I think you need to suck it up, because it's a good concept. It's all about how you utilize it. Except if the producers let someone in with only like 5 people left, then that's when it's BS, okay? So that's, I'll pick up the pitchfork with you. But that's my opinion, that's my hot take on Survivor, Redemption Island, or Edge of Extinction as a general concept. Let me know down below in the comment section what you think of the concept as a whole. Do you like it? Do you think it's something that should make a return one of these days for the new era? I think it'd be very interesting. However, I think for the most part, Jeff has buried a lot of things from the pre-Survivor 41 era. I don't know if it'll ever truly make its return. But if it does, I would be really excited, because I would love to see some of these players get voted out early, have a second chance in the game, at least to get back to the merge. Because like Survivor 43, what if you got to see Lindsay Carmine, Justine Brennan, Mariah? Like, what if you got to see some of them come back during that period of time? Voce, what would Voce have done? Maybe he would have been awesome. I don't know. Or 44. Helen Lee could have won that game. I'm confident Helen Lee could have won Survivor 44 if she had just gotten a little bit of stuff to happen a little bit differently for her. So imagine if Redemption Island afforded that opportunity to some of these people. And I wouldn't worry about a challenge beast like Ozzy running the table, because there's probably not going to be another Ozzy. Ozzy is the greatest Survivor competitor and challenger ever. Flat out, ever. Statistically, if you split him in half, both of his halves would be in the top 10 of all time. He's that good. So there's probably not going to be a challenge imbalance like anyone may propose in the comment section here. I'm just terribly interested to see it come back. But that's going to do it. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to the channel, because it does help out the channel and its growth. The bigger the channel gets, the more we get to talk to some really awesome castaways. And, of course, it's like feeding the machine. That's going to do it. Hope you all have an amazing day, everybody. You take care. Goodbye.